Hello world, it's Nathaniel here with Kicked in the Junk. On today's podcast, I have a great discussion with Dr. Heinrich Henstock about his assimilation into Canada as a young teenager and what that looked like and the struggles he went through to growing up here. We talk about bullying and how he had to evolve as a person and continually to grow, which is so cool. And I learned quite a lot from this discussion, which is awesome. I'm super excited to share it with you. So if you're new to this podcast, first time listening, please like, share, subscribe. Always helps to grow the podcast. And if you've listened to this before or these before and you really enjoy it, please share it with a few friends because that always helps to grow what we're doing here. And again, it's about learning from each other, which is amazing. If you're at a point in your life right now where you're feeling stuck, you have some things you're wanting to work on, maybe it's business related, maybe it's relationships, maybe it's just trying to be a better version of yourself, and you're feeling stuck, please, I'd love you to reach out to lifepurposely.ca. We'd love to have a great discussion with you. No charge, just for 30 minutes to see just what's going on and maybe how we can help. And lastly, I want to let you know that we are doing our 8-week meditation workshop. It's on its way. The recap's on the channel right now from day one. You're more than welcome to join. We'd love to have you there because this is something I'm super passionate about and I think everybody needs and can just help you in so many ways. So thank you again for listening, and I hope you enjoy the rest of this podcast.
All right, Heinrich, well, thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate you being here. I know I've known you actually for quite a while, but we're going to dive into some stuff that I didn't know about because I've known you as, Mr. Thor. In my head, you've always been Mr. Thor, smart, you're a chiropractor now, which is amazing. And, you started to build this life for yourself, which is so cool. Yeah. But it wasn't always like that. And you've had some lows, as we all have. But, you're going to share about one of your lows, and specifically it was about bullying.
Yeah.
Cool. So, I want to share.
I guess it started when I was about 7, moving over here from South Africa. Moved to a small town in Saskatchewan of about 800 people.
Well, that was the problem right there.
Right. And the seasons are switched, so we went from the middle of an African summer to a Saskatchewan winter. So that was
my.
You know that scene in Cool Runnings? Have you ever seen it where they walk out and they put it? That was us. But going to a small town like that, especially someone who sounds different and has different ideologies and ways of doing things, right?
Yeah.
It's you definitely get a target put on your back a little bit, and myself and my 2 brothers actually succumbed to quite a lot of bullying, right?
Wow.
And
I'm just gonna say it. That surprised me because again, if anybody met you in person, you'd be like, not a chance. I'm not even gonna. I'm not even gonna look at you the wrong way. So clearly, it wasn't always like that. But.
Yeah, no, and it continued, and we moved around quite a bit. And so, each place we were at, we kind of started to get a lot of identity on the acceptance of others, right? Like how quickly can we assimilate, and how quickly can we really adapt to the place here?
Yes.
Right. Became quite a thing. And I remember the day that, or the year that really shifted was in grade 10, right? We got quite severe bullying. My brother actually had a lot worse. My oldest brother, he had the typical swirlies and the locked in the closets and stuff, but we definitely all had our fair share.
And what was bullying for you, just to give some color to this?
It was. I mean, there was definitely some physicality for sure, but more a you're on the outskirts, right?
Yeah, and see, that's almost worse sometimes because it's like the physicality you can run from, you can, hide, or at least in your head, I'm going to run, do this, but what just not being accepted is, that I think is almost tougher. Growing up, we were kind of the oddballs out, so I can actually relate to that because I was definitely bullied, or at least found myself initially always on the outskirts, and going into school initially. So and I remember when the year it changed was around grade 10. My brother had just got back from my middle brother had just got back from tearing his pec muscle. He was playing professional rugby in South Africa. Wow.
And tore his pec muscle. He ended up coming back, and we kind of found common ground in weightlifting.
Yeah.
and we really took off. That was our passion, and somewhere around grade 10, I started to perform the same, and at times outperform the more popular kids in my class, and that's when I started seeing the environment shifted a little bit.
Right.
But the bullying just ended up shifting away from the physicality and more to the words, the
right
treatment, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, and you know what? Sorry, I'm not to interrupt, but it's like I said before, sometimes those are worse. Yeah. And like I said, I've had my experience with it. Me and my brothers, I know, have had that experience in the past with neighborhood kids, and that were older than us. But it was always, at least, initially it was a lot of physical, but yeah, going to, the non-acceptance, well, now it's 24/7.
Yeah.
Now it's not, in the classroom and kids are picking teams for a project, you're the odd one out.
Yeah.
Now it's, so maybe you want to just give a few minutes on what that felt like then when you were that age.
Yeah, it sucked. I remember from, grade 8 all the way to grade 12, no, grade 7 all the way to grade 12. So I that time frame, I was in the Lower Mainland, so in Maple Ridge.
Yeah.
And Cultus Lake water slides are there. And I remember
amazing.
I remember I wouldn't know. I remember every year.
Okay.
Every year, a group of friends went to Cultus Lake. And every single year, like, oh, it was awesome. You should have came. Every year, I'm like, should have invited me. And then they're like, oh yeah, sorry.
Right.
And it was just I was always the initiator, the instigator, because if I didn't instigate it, I wouldn't get invited. Right. And that really does play a mental mind games, because you start to think, like, am I being overpowering? Am I being too soft-spoken? Am I like, what, like that interplay? You start to second guess every single sentence that you say, how you do. It's just, it's pretty tiring. And so I really did find solace in the gym, because I get to throw headphones in, I was by myself. That was my thing.
Yeah, and you know what? And it, for me, when you said that, it kind of starts to go, oh, I could see these feelings of, well, am I not good enough?
Yeah. Because
I know for me, that's me. I know I've struggled with that in the past. That's something I've worked through as of recently. but that's super common.
Yeah.
Is that, I'm not good enough. Oh, so did you find that was something that, that was a belief that you started to, you left at an early age, right?
Yeah, 100%. It was, it literally wasn't until about 2 to 3 years ago that identity I had a massive identity shift about 2 or 3 years ago.
Well, let's take a second. What was that?
It was painful. It was the shift away from my identity coming from my physicality. Right. And I remember, chiropractic school was really a phenomenal time, because I left the security of what I know here, went to a country in the States that's away from where we're at. And it was just myself, my wife, and God, and that was it, right? And like, we really had to rely, that was it.
Yeah.
And just that, that's where I started to learn what I was capable of. Like,
right.
I never really had those. I never put myself in those positions. I never thought I was good enough to do it. And I remember, like, I got quite heavy into bodybuilding.
Yeah. I remember last time I saw you.
Yeah. But I got to the point where I remember I was 260 pounds.
Yeah.
Of just meat.
Yeah.
And probably around like 7 to 8% body fat is where I would like hang out at. Right? And
oh man,
I felt this small.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. No, sorry to interrupt you there. But
no, keep going.
I remember, because it was right before going to school.
Yeah.
I had got a job for the summer at a restaurant.
Yeah.
And I had asked the guys, okay, so I just got married to a wonderful woman who has a son, and I was like, hey, like, family time on the weekends is kind of our time. So Saturday, Sunday, I'd rather not do it. Saturday is family time, Sunday's church time. That, I don't want to work it. And the guy's like, he's like, you know what? I'm a family man too. I'm a church man too. So I value that. He's like, normally I don't allow this, because everyone wants to take weekends off. So we make it a policy that on the weekends everyone has to be available.
Sure.
He's like, but in this case, I understand, because I'm like, that Saturdays is when everyone makes their money.
Yes.
And so I'm like, put the good servers there, right? Like, not that it's bad or anything, but I'm like, people are going to be fighting for that one a lot more than like a Wednesday shift, right?
Yeah.
And so he approved it. It was all good. It goes on. First schedule comes out. and I'm scheduled to work Saturday, Sunday. And so I go to the manager on shift, and I was like, hey, just to let you know, like the owner, when I did the interview, he said I don't have to work these because this, and this. And they're like, oh, okay, I'll have to go ask him. And I remember it was like 15 minutes after. I'm walking up the stairs to go to the upstairs lounge, and he's walking down. He stops me. And I'm at the bottom of the stairs, he's at the top, and I'm looking up at him. He lays into me. Just lays into me. He's like, you're being manipulative. Like, I know what
so
your
just
type
the
is.
owner?
Like. The owner. He's like, I know
Whoa.
your type. You're being manipulative. And he's like, his exact words, like, I'm smart. He's like, I'm very smart. He's like, I know what you're doing. And I'm like, did I mess up? Did I not articulate myself correct? And I'm going to give my viewpoint. And I remember I felt this small to this man here. And I just around that time I had started playing jiu-jitsu a little bit. So I thought that was the first time in my life where I was just like, wait a minute, like, not that it ever comes to this, but I'm like, I could take this guy. And that was the very first, that was the very first shift that happened, where I was like,
I don't have to listen to this.
I'm not worth this. Sorry, I'm worth more than this.
Yes.
Like, this isn't worth what.
Yes.
And I remember I was like, okay, can we go take a look? Because we don't have to take a look at the schedule. We have to whatever. Like this. And it was a weird mind shift. And I walked away, and I was like, I felt like a bit of a one-off, right? Because my identity was still in the physicality.
Yeah.
Go to Cairo school. Ended up hurting my knees here because. Back then I didn't really care about form at all. It's just as much as I can squat.
Totally,
like let's go on the 4 plates. That's what I'm doing. And knees started to hurt, and I for the first time I understood how the physical body can play on the mental body. How it literally creeps into your, and that depression can sit in. Now, I didn't quite go into full-on clinical depression, but I 100% understand how people can get there. And it was a weird thing. I kept saying to myself, like, well, if I can't work out and I can't maintain this big man status, like, what am I? What do I bring?
Right.
What's, because that's really when things shifted, and I was so scared to let that go.
Yes, because it's what you knew, and it gave you strength, and it gave you power.
And, I'm a 6'4" man, so when a 6'4", 260-pound walks in the room, like, people take notice. Yes. But I didn't know people took notice. Yeah. I knew it, but I didn't.
That's I find so interesting because... and I was like, wow, like, because, again, I've only known you as that person, really. I mean, maybe not 260, but
I think when you met me, I was like 240.
Yeah, big dude, right? And so it's just funny because I've always, I've talked to my wife about this before, and I've always looked at myself as, growing up, I was a skinny kid. Yeah. And even some of my brothers, my growing up were big, a little bit thicker than me, and they just put on muscle easier. And I've always looked at myself as like, oh, you're just a skinny guy. You're the skinny guy. And it wasn't until about 4 years ago that I was like, wait a minute, I'm not. Yeah. I'm not the skinny guy, one. Yeah. And which is a weird epiphany to have, to be like, oh, recognize that I'm actually not that person. Yeah. But I think it wasn't just the physical. It was now not letting that be my identity. That I'm not just a big dude. Yeah. Or because I'm not 6'4", I'm 5'10", on the 5'11" if I stretch, kind of thing, 200, 220, 200, give or take, right? But the point is that I didn't allowing myself to move away from that identity. Yeah. That it's like, this isn't my identity, because growing up it was playing football, it was playing sports, so that made sense. But now it's like, I don't have to. That's not my only value. It's just being big and strong. Yeah. Right? And it's interesting that you say that, and that was where you went. So I guess, what did you when you had that shift, what other things did you notice started to come more into play? Because now you're going, okay, well, I'm not just this big guy. Yeah. What did you notice started to take hold in your life?
Wow. What do you mean?
So what in your, again, you were now kind of going, okay, right, I am speaking up, that's not all who I am, right? Or that's not who I have value outside of that. Yeah. So what did you now you're not putting energy only into that. Yeah. Right? So wherever you put your energy is where you put your attention, right? So that's where you're going to grow. So where did you find you were growing in other areas?
Using my presence differently.
I like
previously, I subconsciously tried to use my presence as a form of intimidation, because if as long as people were intimidated, they hopefully wouldn't bully.
Yeah.
And I can't tell you how many times I would go to bars and stuff, and people would try to fight me because they're like, oh, here's a big guy, but he's smiling and he's not, so I'm going to try to fight him.
Right.
Because the tattooed guy next to me looks a bit more of a badass than I am, so as long as I can take this behemoth, I can take that.
Yeah.
And so I would try to, a lot of energy went into that, right?
Yes.
And it shifted to more, when I had my first son, first biological, I should say. I had a first son, a second, but anyways.
Yeah.
It's interesting. For him, it was okay. Now I need to start really refining who I am as a man. Right. But it wasn't until I had my daughter.
Okay.
That I realized I need to be able to not just be present, but I need to be capable.
Okay.
And if I focus so hard on going in the gym to the detriment of my joints, I'm not gonna be able to move when I'm 45.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I need to be able to switch more to being capable, because to be honest, she doesn't care if I can squat 400 pounds. She cares. Can I play with her?
Yeah.
Right. And can I be there? And
can I jump on the trampoline? Can you push me on the swing?
Yeah. It switched to that protection mindset.
I love
right?
that. And you know what?
And when I realized with the boys, it was there. I just didn't really quite articulate it in my head, because I was still going through that transition.
Yes.
But I see everyone around me. I'm hanging out around like 220 pounds now.
Sure. Yeah.
A big reason for that, actually, I did a cut for a jiu-jitsu competition. I didn't end up partaking because I got COVID 2 days before, but once I made that shift from the 240 to 220, I was like, I can run up mountains easier because I don't have all that muscle mass. My mobility was through the roof, and really, for the most part, my strength stayed similar.
Yeah.
And I felt good. I felt capable. I felt more like, all right, I can be there for my family a lot more, right?
Right. And
that was for the physical aspect.
Yes.
But for the mental aspect, I realized I have so much more to give besides just my physicality. Because end of the day, nobody cares how big I was.
Yeah.
Nobody does.
It
right?
It was for you.
It was for me, and it's for me alone.
And it was, and it's funny, that shift, because I think a lot of people need to hear that. And I know I've been there, and there's a lot of guys, especially when you don't have the confidence.
Yeah.
Or you having these scenarios. For me, it was confidence. I didn't think I was good enough. So what do I do? Or I didn't think I was strong enough. So what do I do? I start working out. Now I'm like, okay, well, yeah, it's sweet. I can lift all this weight, but like, there's still value there.
Yeah.
But now I'm like, okay, I'm realizing like it isn't the end all be all.
Yeah.
It's still cool, and I should be strong and need to be strong. But like you said, I need to be here with my family.
Yeah.
I need to be able to do these activities. For me, it's my son and my daughter. I want to continue to play sports with them well into 45, 50, right? I would love, I dream right now of just being able to still play when my son, if he continues to play football or not, to be able to play touch football with him on the same team and be competitive, right? Which would be so cool. So, I love that shift that you had.
Yeah.
How did you find that shift? Because now it wasn't about you.
Yeah.
It was about we.
Yeah.
Right? So how did you find that shift affected the relationship with your wife, Rita?
Much better. Well, I wasn't spending all my time in the gym there, right? That's one thing. So there's more time for her for sure. But it's the dialogue shifted more, and it's hard to say. It wasn't just necessarily the physical aspect per se. It was with that new way of thinking. It unlocks other paradigms and other aspects of life, and just that pursuit where I no longer get my value of other people's opinions, and so that is like the secret to life, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Is once I realized, like, hey,
yes.
Other people don't pay my bills for me.
Yeah.
Right. And so like,
their laughs don't matter. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And
your
so,
approval doesn't matter.
And so as a chiropractor here, I was thinking, I was like, well, how can I multiply my time and my efforts? Because I trade my time for money. Right.
Yes.
That's what
we all do.
Like, I adjust and stuff. But and I listened to a podcast from Alex Hormozy. It was phenomenal. He said the whole concept of residual income is a myth, right? Because you've done a set of work, and that time is now being multiplied to certain points, right?
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like, how much do you want your time to multiply, and what do you want your hourly wage to be? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, how do I multiply what I do? Well, I can't do like, you know, adjustments over wireless, you know. So, but I can create some sort of like a mobility program or a strength training program or something, right? And sell that and stuff. But then that little voice in the back of my head's like, yeah, but now you're gonna become a target again, and you're gonna be put on, and then people are gonna start going. And
So
but now that voice is so small.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, yeah, but I'm not doing it for those people. I'm doing it for the people who can't lift their arm above their heads, right? I'm doing it for, you know, the people who need it. And once I realized, like, you know, do you remember Lisa, that worked at that trained at Okanagan Peak Performance? I know I probably shouldn't be throwing
as long as it's good things I
names
say.
here. No, but it's good. No, anyways, if you're watching, this was great. She said something. So we had this kind of conversation about something. She's like, yeah, well, you know, if you don't stand for something, you stand for nothing. And I was just like, I've heard that before, but I don't know, some of the way that she said it.
Sometimes things resonate. Yeah.
I was like, and that was one of like the last straws of like that shift that happened, where I was like, okay, now I'm making stances for the way I believe in, for what I do. You know, being a chiropractor, a lot of people think I'm a quack anyways, and I realized I don't care, because there are people that come in my office.
They're not coming to my office anyway, so it doesn't matter.
Right. And they're like, well, why has no one told me about this sooner, right? I've been taking, you know, pain meds for the last like 10 years, and one adjustment thing's gone, or you know, it takes 10 adjustments, whatever it is, right? And so just, I don't know, that whole identity shift of there's more to do, and to be honest, it's actually really exciting, because I don't know what the possibilities are anymore.
Yeah.
All I've viewed, like my life, I didn't realize it was such a closed off viewpoint, and I've literally like unlocked a whole new game of life of like, what can I do now? What am I gonna do?
Yep.
And I'm actually really excited to go towards with the fervor and tenacity, you know, to do it.
No, absolutely, and you know what, I love it, because I'm just in my head, I'm going like, well, yeah, two things. You were able to, again, you shifted your energy away from you, protecting you, right? Being this big guy so nobody make fun of you or pick on you, whatever, to others.
Yeah.
Right? And with that, when you free up that energy, right? And this is the best part, and this is why people need to hear this and need to do this, is that when you free up that energy, you now you're creating programs, you're being creative.
Yeah.
Right? And that creative energy is what can change the world in such amazing ways. And sometimes it's little, and it, you know, one person hears it and it can change their life forever. Sometimes it's, you know, hundreds of thousands of people are affected by it. So, you know, I love that. That's where you started to go. And interesting enough that you had this you come back and go, hey, wait a minute, right? Because we all have that there. Yeah. So I think people need to realize, and this is something even for myself as I'm doing this podcast and even trying to grow this, is like, you're living in that creative, which is amazing. You're taking that energy from being self to creating, which is amazing. But during that time, there's going to still be that little bit that's going to go, hey, are you sure? What if somebody doesn't like it? What if somebody doesn't follow? What if somebody does this? So learning to, you know, put more attention to what you're doing and try to not to buy into that. So I guess my question for you is, then, you are doing this, what are some of your strategies that you're doing to be better at being creative, being better at being present?
Yeah. Well, I think I was sharing, like, I joined that dad's mentorship thing, and honestly, it's absolutely mind-blowingly phenomenal. And it's that 12-month process where we really refine ourselves, our internal world, our external world, our relationships, and then even just creating the legacy for our families and what we're going to produce. And so end of the year, I really, you know, if I put in enough effort here, I could apply to do affiliateship here and create something like that in this community here. So that really is a big driver for me, you know, that purpose of something bigger than myself into there. And I listened to Tony Robbins talk once, and he said, you know, once you make that shift from becoming a consumer to a producer, is really when you start hitting more levels of greatness, right? Because you can either complain or create. You can't do both. You can either complain about how your life is and what it's like, or you can go and change or create a whole new life. And so some of the strategies I do is I really try to create systems and procedures in my house and in my life to allow me to view a certain way. So I really have to go outside of my way to think differently.
Right.
And so there are daily essential habits that I do. I really try to set the stage for the next day, right? And so at night I'll have all my clothes out, my coffee out, the books I'm going to read the next morning, it's there, everything's there. Meals are prepped, breakfast is made, I wake up, it's there, it's easy, right? So I can get into my mindset morning routine, do what I have to do.
So there's no energy.
There's no
being
energy
diverted,
being to that, right?
you know, to what you're going right to your purpose. You're going right to your goal, which I love that. And more people need that. And I read a book. Sorry to interrupt, but you know, Jay Shetty talks about that, and that's what monks do. Is it's like they don't have. That's like they put all their energy into what they're doing. Their purpose is because all these little decisions are being done for them. So I love it. Keep going.
And it don't get me wrong. Like it changes as you go because life is dynamic.
Yes.
And I try to get trigger points. I heard Brandon Bouchard say every time he walks under a door frame, he says, "I'm a happy man or a good man ready to serve." No, he says, I look for the good in the room.
Yeah.
And I'm a man ready to serve or something like that. And so just every time I walk under a door or in my little office when I go to outside to adjust people, I touch the top of my door frame. Because I don't know where you stand spiritually, but I'm a Christian, so I definitely try to bring that in with me, not in a preacher way whatsoever. But
but it's living with that.
I was called into chiropractic, and I really, I use my hands for healing, right? And I don't ever want the person in front of me to feel like their paycheck or their whatever.
Yeah.
Like, I honestly don't really care about that, right? The person in front of me is a person. And that's so beautiful. It's those check-in points of throughout life, and when I get home, take 3 breaths. There's a phenomenal book by Todd Herman, Alter Ego Effect. There's the first book we had to read in that dad's thing. It's just like the different alter egos that we have in the different fields of play. As an athlete, you would enjoy it quite a lot. But just the different alter egos that we play in life, like for example, as a football player, you can't be the football player when you're talking with your son, right? There are different things,
different
and
versions
it's
of
not
you, right?
pretending to be someone else. It's just emulating the different characteristics.
Like
you can't be the intense version of yourself when you're talking to your son or your daughter. It's the same way that you're going to try to flatten the guy with the ball, right? It's already inside you. It's just different variations of it. And
it's that range of who you are.
And throughout the book, he talks about different totems that you can have to bring forth that alter ego, if you will. Right? And so when I'm talking with my wife, I'm like, hey, is this the alter ego that I brought forth for her? Is this how he would emulate? Or when I'm talking to my kids, or when I'm at work, is this? And it really helps to again, he's very clear, not to pretend to be someone you're not. But to emulate the characteristics already inside of you in the ways that you want to.
And I love that. I've heard Tony Robbins talk about it before, where he talks about, the warrior, the magician, the lover, there's a lot of them, but he talks about the sovereign, or Aubrey Marcus talks about that too. Is it's just that version of you that really brings out those qualities in you. So a lot of guys can relate to their warrior. Right, because especially most, a lot of guys that have done sports, have done jiu-jitsu, UFC, whatever they've done, any kind of MMA stuff. That's their warrior, which is it. That warrior has value for sure. You need him, but he doesn't have their steering wheel. Right, and so again, you have the lover, and that's for you with your wife, and even on a different level, but even with your kids, it's being there, being present. So I guess then my question would be like, how do you know when to change, and then how do you get good at just working these.
The how do you know when to change? That comes all from the intentional forethought,
right?
Of taking the time. Like it took me about a month or two to actually quite articulate and formulate these alter egos the way I really wanted them to be. And even then, they're still changing. Where it's like, you know what? I've actually outgrown this. He's been there. It's done. I can now get to move on here, right? And so that's really where that forethought comes in, and that you start writing out like, where is your field of play, right? And so like athletes, so Todd Herman was actually the one who helped create Black Mamba mentality for Kobe Bryant.
Oh, cool.
And so his, like, when he comes on the court, there's certain ways to
Yes.
activate that alter ego, if you will, and then literally your whole self changes. And I can't tell you how much that's changed with my kids, especially when the discipline factor comes in. It takes the reactionary side of things out. Because I know as parents, you know, when we're anger, and then the discipline comes out, and after like, the fact, you're like, I did that out of anger, not because, you know. Because
you needed to hear it, and because you're out of line, and people need that, right? Or sorry, kids need that, especially, right? And people too, but kids do need that.
And so it's having that shift and that play. And you know what the great thing about all that is when you're emulating that avatar, alter ego, whatever, that little voice in the back of your head becomes a lot smaller.
That doubt.
Yeah. Because now it's not just that little voice talking to you; it's that little voice talking to a council of men. And
that's so cool.
It's a lot easier for a council of men to tell that one little voice, like,
no, that's enough.
That's not.
Right. And see, and you know what? Just because when you said it, I pictured literally you as a warrior. You as this, you know, your lover, you as the father, you as the sovereign, you as these like different characters, and then you as this other, and it can be anybody, has this ugly version of you that wants to just bring you down, because we all have that. And then, you know, it's one thing if you're only that one person, like you said, but when you have developed these versions of yourself that can just be that are all so good. Right? It's like, what do you mean? No, shut up. You know what I mean? You're like, it's like you can't talk to me like that. This, you know,
and
whoever this character is.
What I will say for people who have a voice that's, you know, that little voice in the back of the head, the negative self-talk. If you recognize the patterns of that voice, create a person for that. Create an avatar. Create an ego. Whatever it is.
I like
a character.
that.
And make them the most disgusting, funny-looking, whatever it is. Like, put a persona to it. Right. It's a lot easier that when that voice comes in to imagine, hey, here's like Ursula or whatever.
Sure.
Like I don't know why that name came to my head.
Quasimodo, like whatever. Whatever. Somebody.
It's a lot to say like, hey, like, frig off, man. Like, you know, versus these are the thoughts that I've been having all the time. Because every hero has an anti-hero, right?
Yes.
And it's a lot easier for that hero to go through the trials, you know, if they're fighting a person versus a concept.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
And that also shifted quite a bit. So in my head, I don't know if you've ever read Frank Herbert's Dune. Mm-mm. Well, there's a baron who's apparently like super fat. Not that there's anything wrong with fat people. That's not what I'm saying. But and just like really big fat person, bald, and I imagine him with this like stupidest little high-pitched voice.
Yeah.
And so I'm like, imagine that telling me I'm not good enough.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like you're not capable even to get off the couch and try to tell me I'm not good enough. Right? It just makes it a lot easier to
Yes.
Their effect on it.
Yes. So I guess then the strategy would be to, you know, whoever it is, look at the person that you look at a character somewhere that you know that you think is just absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what it is, and make that voice your character. I actually really like that, because that's something that I know I've struggled with. I know a lot of people struggle with, is that little voice in your head. And so to paint this picture of something just so absurd.
Yeah.
What an amazing thing, and so easy.
Yeah.
Right? So that's awesome.
And again, it allows for that disassociation, because at the end of the day, when if we're really being true with ourselves, we know it's a lie.
Yeah.
We know it's a lie. We know that's not that's not our true selves. And the fact that we're constantly having this battle is because we know that we're called for greater, and that there is betterness to it, right?
Yeah.
The problem is all of us get to a point where we're that tired that sometimes we're just like, okay, maybe I'm going to start believing and acting out this way.
Right.
But it just makes it a lot easier to do that disassociation between the lies and the truth, and then actually able to live out into the truth. And the fact, again, those alter egos there, if you start living out that way, you're living out more to your fullest self. You're taking all the expressions and the characteristics you already have, the good ones that you've thought about, the ones you want to emulate, because we all have bad ones we don't want to do.
Totally. Yep.
You're taking the good ones and you're intentionally practicing those, because you're bringing them to the forefront.
Yeah.
And then that also takes away, because now,
because you're putting energy into this, and you're not putting energy into that.
Yeah, because now when that the enemy, if you will, says, hey, you're not good enough, you're like, wait a minute, I just got up at 5 a.m. for the last 2 weeks to go work out, and you're telling me I'm not capable?
Yeah.
Like, wait a second, and now suddenly you rewrite the past and your viewpoint of the past there. right? And,
I love that.
Even in Cairo school, I had to give this talk, and it takes about an hour, so I'm not going to give it here. But and it was all about like how in a way time travel is possible, and all determines it's a perception of your past. It can change the effect your past has on you.
Yeah.
Right. If you want to really get mind blown by quantum physics, go look at the slit theory, the double slit theory, on how light travels and acts as either a particle or a wave, right? And when they're looking at it in the future, it changes how it acts in the past. So in the quantum level, time travel is possible. And then I kind of was like, well, how can I extrapolate this? It is a bit of a stretch. I get it. If any quantum physicists there, don't get mad. But I'm like, what if we took those principles and realized, hey, if I can look back at my past and all the hardships that I went through, right? Can I change that effect?
Yes.
And instead of it being a negative, it's now suddenly a positive. And now instead of me being down here, it suddenly skyrockets me to here because it was actually building me all the way. And now I realized, going through this process and the process I'm at now, all the bullying that I went through, it refined me to be able to be more compassionate, understand where people are at.
Yes.
Always having to be the instigator means I now am able to go do business with people a lot better because I have now less fear on saying, hey, we should go for coffee, let's instigate.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
I do that instigation. I become the connector of people now.
Yes.
Because I insert myself, I connect, and then I can actually leave. And I've looked at all throughout my life now, all those obstacles that I've went through actually became the way to become the greatest person I'm meant to be.
And that's as you're saying that, I'm just there smiling. I'm like, yes, because that's to be honest, you said my podcast without saying it. That's the purpose of this podcast, is to help people realize that these things that you get hit with, sometimes it's big, and you've had people on the show that have like I said, mangled by cars, whatever it is. But then sometimes it's just these little events that you're like, what are these times or these scenarios where you're bullied or whatever, you're feeling a certain way. But when you look at them with, like you said, when you're able to look at it with love and kindness and realize, like, wait a minute, like I can't hate that version of me.
Yeah.
Why? Because that version of me got me here.
Yeah.
And so I don't want to be that guy again.
Yeah.
But you know what? He helped me.
Yeah.
And to look back at it with love, and look at it with kindness. So to look back at yourself, even as, when you're coming to Canada for the first time, looking at it with love and kindness is, and again, he got you to this. Yeah. So what an amazing thing, right? And you can look at, like you said, the time travel part, but even just look at yourself as like, you know what? I can rewrite that. Yeah. I can put this different color because now, it ain't so bad.
So at the beginning of the year, I did an exercise where I wrote a note to my past self, thanking him for getting me to where I'm at.
Love that.
Thanking him for getting, and then letting him know why he needed to die. Not just go away, but literally die for me to become the person I'm meant to become, right?
Yeah.
And I thought I'm not that much of an emotional person. Part of the challenge is you're supposed to read it to someone, and then you have to bury it or burn it, the note. And I got probably three words into with Rita, and I am sobbing like
wow.
And it's a powerful thing. And
that's awesome.
I would recommend everyone going through that kind of a journey to do it. But I also got challenged this month to run the distance of Mount Everest. All throughout May, as well as the height. And so I have to run, 184 kilometers, and then I have to ruck or have with a weighted vest climb 11,400 feet, which is 11,400 steps, right?
Yeah.
And so I was a little behind on my kilometers, and so I think I was on Wednesday or whatever. I went for a run, and I got to some stairs, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna start running stairs up and down. And
sure.
I did almost 3,000 stairs.
Sure, yeah,
right?
That's unreal.
And I like to listen to heavy metal screamo when I'm working out because I need, my heart jumps and it's there. And but on Apple Music, I did this little the infinite thing, so it just plays whichever next song. So I've never heard the song before, and it came on, and it was this whole. There's a song called "I Would Die for You," and it's like, you make me feel so alive, I would die for you. Which suddenly, I don't know why, but it threw me back, and I was like, in the beginning of the year, I wrote a note to my past self, thanking himself for how he got me, why he's there, and why he had to die.
Yeah.
And imagine what would it like to be that guy?
Yeah.
Looking forward and be like, I will die so that you can live and better. And that so kind of put me into this perspective as a 30-year-old here, writing a letter to my past self.
Yeah.
Myself 10 years ago, thanking him for why he got there.
Yeah.
I was like, what would I now, let go of, kill, die, whatever? What habits or ways of thinking or procedures I need to die,
so that way the 40-year-old version
of me can come to life. And I was like, you make me feel so alive. That purpose is so much there. Like, that's why you wake up at 5 a.m. to go work out, right? You are killing that a self-satisfactory side of I want to sleep in, that self, what's it called? Serving, self-serving of everyone wants to just sit on the couch, everyone wants to have that next piece of cake, everyone has whatever, but you're literally stopping yourself for the yourself. And so I started thinking, like, what else am I killing off, and is that person worth it enough? Is everyone around me to become that person worth enough, and what needs to let go?
That's so beautiful.
And then right when I got to the stairs, the song switched to Face Everything and Rise. And of course, I was just blowing. I'm just running upstairs. And I realized, like it's this, because every step I took got harder and harder and harder, and I wanted to stop. And I realized all it takes is just that next step. That's what it takes. Don't focus with the rest. It's that next
just
step.
one step.
And that's what it takes to get to it, and that's what I have to get rid of. And it was, I don't know, there's a lot of introspection.
But you know what, I love that because it's, because we're kind of wrapping up here, but to, for wisdom for somebody that is in that moment right now, or going through this, like, they're stuck, they're not confident, they're wanting to change their life. It's like, the takeaway being that you can be grateful right now for this person that you are, because, and with that, focus on who you want to be. Right. And like you said, what are the changes you need to make now, today, to make sure you can be that person later? Because we all have dreams. We all have, most of us have dreams and things we want. But we're too scared to take those steps. Right. And you kind of said there without even saying, it's like, but it's that one step. So for the takeaway being to just kind of extrapolate it and just something that people can just take really easy. It's, take that one step. All it is, it's just one step. You don't have to run the whole hill right now. You're not climbing Everest today at this moment. You're just doing one step. And you're doing one step. And as you're doing those steps, you're looking at, what other things do I need to change right now as myself so that I can be this person I want to be, so I can have the partner I want, so I can have the business I want, so I can have the money. Whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Right? So I think that's so beautiful. And it's cool that how things sometimes line up in our lives in that way. That the song came on at that time, and that was what you needed to hear, and you're like, oh wow, like all those things lined up. So it's so powerful. And I don't think, even I'm actually, to be honest, I'm a little inspired by it, because I'm like, you know what, because I've even looked at my past and stuff, I'm like, oh man, I was such an idiot, and like, geez, and this and this and this, and I let people treat me this way and I did this, but now I'm like, you know what, you're right, like, thank you. Thank that person that was there, that version of me, because he got me here. And it's so empowering.
To put a point on that, the person with low self-esteem, low self-efficacy that I was in the past, that was so focused on, if I got sick for 4 days, I literally would wear a hoodie, because I was in the gym for 4 days, and I'm like, I got smaller. Like, 4 days, don't lose muscle. And but that was the mentality. But I realized how much that it kept me out of trouble, because my parts in my family has an affinity towards the partying scene, right? My other parts in my bloodline has that affinity for everything that entails, if you catch my drift there. And I honestly believe that kept me out of it. And so
how way to be thankful for that guy. Right, that version of you.
Would I be significantly further in life if I, in certain aspects maybe, but maybe I'd be in that scene, right? And so yes, thanking him for his ads, thanking him for how he got me, but and you know what,
his
time has come.
Yeah,
so
and
it's now, and so I you know, once you unlock this new level of and I want to say confidence, because confidence sounds like you already have it, but it's a daily battle.
yes, and it's perception. It's how you're perceiving yourself.
Yeah.
And that can change, like you said, in a moment.
Yeah.
If you're listening to this now, or if you're, even if you're in that moment, it can change like that,
Yeah.
which is so cool. And to go, wait, you know what? Yeah, I did drink last night and I partied, or I quit that job, or maybe I didn't take that shot I should have, but it was for a reason. And now I have right now, and I can change right now.
Yeah.
Right. And so I absolutely love that. So
Yeah.
I know we could talk about this all night.
For sure.
I know, and we get eaten out here by mosquitoes, and you know what? But
when we started, we had a good backdrop, and now you can't see it. So.
yeah, but that's all right. But you know what? To kind of round this off, like you said. So again, thank you for being on the show. Your wisdom is awesome. Again, this is the first time I've seen you in 5 or 6 years. Yeah. So to hear how you're growing is it's inspiring, and I love it. Where can somebody find you? Because again, you are practicing right now as a chiropractor, which is amazing.
Yep. Summit Chiropractic.
Yep. If you're in Kelowna.
If you're in Kelowna, in the Landmark 3 building.
Is anywhere, if anybody wants to follow you?
Instagram really.
Okay.
I've started dabbling on switching a lot of my content to like fatherhood and dadhood, and really
I love it. Yeah.
Trying to bring out that empowering men in this sounds weird, but the masculinity of manhood.
Yeah.
And
providing and caring.
Preside, protect. Yeah, that's kind of that's what fatherhood is, and I feel like all my life I was told, being a man is the worst thing by society, and I think the culture is shifting. Shifting, and a lot of people are realizing the way to change what the world perceives toxic masculinity is to pour into the men, and like even in when it comes to childhood research, we know that just telling the child all the time what he's doing wrong doesn't change what he does.
Yeah.
But exactly. That's for a whole second episode. Of
yeah, totally. But you know what? It's good, and I love that you're because that does tie into what we talked about today, and if you are a dad and you are trying to make these shifts, this is a great way to find you and to just see what you're doing. And even be inspired, take some tools, which is amazing, and
ask
questions because you know what, like you said, your heart's here to serve, and I think that's such a beautiful thing. And I think that's why I'm so glad we were able to reconnect and share this. So, is there anybody you want to thank before we wrap this up?
My wife, really.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest. She's an absolute rock star.
Yeah.
For her to be able to, even just going through Chiro school, had 3 jobs on campus just to make it work, and doing that with 2 kids, now 3, it wasn't easy, and she handled it like an absolute champion, and so
that's awesome. It's amazing what a great partner can do.
Yeah, good luck trying to be a good man if you don't have a good wife, right?
Absolutely. And you know what, that is, I think we can even end on that. It's like you track what you put out there, right? I think it's really what we can kind of boil it down to is like, if you're a good person and you're doing these things, that's what you're going to bring back. But if you're not willing to change yourself, but you're asking for that, how can you have that?
Absolutely.
So, thank you so much. No, for sure. I'm not sure if but I always end this show with a hug, so bring it in, buddy.
Not a kick in the nuts?
No.
So thanks so much for listening to this podcast. I know I really loved this discussion. I know I learned a ton from this. The tools of just even taking those little steps is so big that it isn't, you're not climbing Everest today, you're just taking those little steps to just change. And I really love the part he talked about, painting that anti-version or that version of yourself you don't like, and this just painting them this picture that makes them just look so ridiculous that it's hard to even listen to them. Such a powerful tool and so wonderful. Honestly, something that I'm going to use. So thank you again for listening. Please share with a few friends if you know somebody that is, might need to hear this or just likes podcasts or this is up their alley. Share it with them. Subscribe if you haven't already. And again, if you want to reach out to Dr. Heinrich Henstock, you can always do that. He did tag it. I'll tag his stuff on the end of this. And thank you so much for listening. I appreciate you, and have a good rest of your day. I'll see you on the next one.